we are discussing one more paragraph discussing the halachas of a shul. Could a shul be gifted? Could it be given away? Could it, if the shul is set aside for a shul, does that make it into a holy place already? That we decided, that we explained yesterday, that if it was already built but not yet used, it has a sanctity of a shul. If the materials were put together but not yet built, it does not yet have the sanctity of a shul. Matana, could a shul be given as a gift? Pligiba, Rav Acha v'Ravina. Rav Acha and Ravina, from the last generation of the Amirayim, so they had a disagreement about this, whether you're allowed to give away a shul as a gift. If the one who receives a gift must use the shul as well. Chad asar v'chad shari. One prohibits it and one permits it. Now the Gemara doesn't say who prohibits, who permits, but the Gemara will give the reasons. And of course, this is going with the agreement of the leaders of the city or the leaders of the shul and the board, if the shul could be given as a gift. Man de asar, the one who prohibits it, bahai tipaka kedushasa. The fact that the shul was given away as a gift means that all the people of the shul together agreed that the shul is no longer a place of a shul, and it could be, the holiness could go away. Some add the word amai, some read the word tifka. Amai, bahai tifka tishasa, could the holiness go away? The Rif adds on the word amai and makes it much more smooth. You see over here, they didn't put kudas, he changes the word to b'mai. Says, how could he take away the holiness of a shul? If someone gave money to buy the shul, yesterday we explained the money could be used to buy a new shul. Over here, if you're giving away the shul as a gift, there's nothing that the holiness of the shul could go onto. Now, the Moshe Feinstein writes about this Gemara in Igros Moshe, the first chelek. It was a very common thing, unfortunately, in his times, where Jewish migration out of many neighborhoods, there was Harlem, and there was Lower East Side, and many different neighborhoods which were thriving Jewish communities, and the communities moved. So he puts a caveat, and therefore, anytime such a question comes up, is go to a competent halachic authority. He says, if the shul is not in use anymore, so then he said there's a lot more room for leniency. This whole entire discussion is if the shul would still be in use, but the people of the shul decided that it's, for whatever reason, it's proper, it's worth it for them to give the shul as a gift, to give the building as a gift to someone or something. But in a place where the entire shul dwindled due to lack of membership, says then there's no issue of making the shul giving the shul away as a gift. Uman shari, and the one who permits it, ilav, to give away the shul as a gift. Anyone who gives a gift has some type of benefit coming out from the shul, coming out from the gift. And although it's not a monetary value, and then you could dedicate the money towards another shul, but at least there is some other value. So the argument is if this non-monetary value is substantial enough to be considered to be a shul. And it must be that the people of the city of the shul are having some type of benefit from this. So the fact that the shul is given away as a gift and there's some benefit coming out of the gift considered to be a sale. Halacha, it's paskin that a shul in a small village, in a small town, or an old shul, which is falling apart, or it was destroyed, and that could be sold or that could be given away as a gift if it's worth it for the community to do it. It must be done, of course, with the agreement of the board, the Shiva Tovei Ir, and they have to be do it. If they're giving it away and there's absolutely no benefit whatsoever, then they cannot give it away. At any rate, they cannot give it away for four things, which is to be a place of idol worship, a place of immorality, and places which smell like a tannery or a factory, or a farm or something like that. That cannot be done. Something which smells.
I don't understand the difference between a gift and a sale if you're getting benefit.
So the question is, could a kedusha go onto something else?
Right.
So what's a kedusha? If a kedusha goes onto the money, so we say the kedusha transferred from here to there. But here, what is the kedusha transferring to? Right? Is on Shabbos the halacha is that if someone is very angry and while they're angry they broke kalim, so then they're chayav for being over Shabbos. And if they broke kalim when they're not angry, they're pater. And the reason is because they're metaking, they're fixing the Yetzer Hara. They had anger, and now the fact that they broke something, they're fixing. If you're destroying on Shabbos, you're pater. But if you're fixing something, then that could be, and you're chayav. And here you're not fixing that object, you're fixing the Yetzer Hara. The question is a non-tangible benefit considered to be tangible?
But in one sense, that still doesn't address the issue of does the sanctity transfer to something else?
Right.
You're getting a gift, and fine, but now what do you do with the sanctity?
Correct. So that's the two sides of the disagreement here, right? The sanctity was transferred to another object. So one says it wasn't transferred to another object, but was transferred to another type of benefit of some sort. And so one says that it has to be transferred to a physical object. You can't take a physical object and make some other non-tangible benefit.
Yeah, but say you I don't know,
Yeah.
Bottom line is, what does the kedusha mean to the object that you've transferred it to? In other words, if you transferred it to money, then the money has to be used in an appropriate way.
Right.
If you transferred it to a gift, does the gift have kedusha that limits what is either done or the kind of gift that you can receive, if it's honor or whatever? I mean, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Suppose they're gonna honor the guy with a parade. Well,
right.
The shul has been transferred to a parade. I mean, I don't. What in terms of what kedusha adds to it? That's my real question. How does it affect the change in the gift? We know it affects the change in the money. It can't be used for something inappropriate. But here, there's no real tangible place they could say you transferred it to. Right. So if you look at someone, let's say a congregant in the shul, right? So he looks at what's happening over here and he says, look, they gave away the shul for absolutely nothing. Yeah.
Right. If they say, okay, the shul was sold and something else was bought with the shul, I can understand what happened. But here you gave away the shul for nothing at all.
Yeah.
Look at the piece for a piece of paper that was signed in Eretz Yisrael in 1979.
Yeah.
Right. So if you say, they gave away this area because they got another 20 areas, that's one thing I can understand. But they gave away a, strategic and valuable piece of land for a piece of paper and a promise that we're going to do good. And maybe the people on inside felt that they got a victory, but looking from the outside and you say, you sold everything for a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Right. I remember there was all the PR saying no, it's not important for security, etc. I guess it's connected to this type of thing. The next halacha is something which I guess we could look into it more. The next halacha in the Gemara is regarding Shaimos, a very popular topic nowadays. What is the halacha of Shaimos? Called Tashmish mitzvah. Tana Rabbanan, our sages taught, Tashmish mitzvah nizrakin. Articles used for a mitzvah could be thrown away after it's used. For example, let's say the schach of a sukkah. Right? You get evergreens or whatever, you get some branches, and after was used to cover the sukkah, but afterwards it doesn't have kedusha, it doesn't have holiness, and it can be thrown away, even though it was used for a mitzvah. Tashmish kedusha, articles that are used for holiness, for the sanctity of Hashem's name, meaning something which Hashem's name is written on it, which would include any svarim, any written svarim with objects of Torah, words from the Torah written on it, and the Pri Megadim and the Mishnah Brura adds on that, including our printed svarim, our printed books which have kedusha, words of holiness on it, nignazin, they must be, it doesn't say buried, it must be put away. Geniza. Geniza just means hidden. The most famous Geniza in the world was a Cairo Geniza, where we have the handwritings of the Rambam found over there. It was a huge chimney stack, about I think 80, 90 feet tall. And over there, they wouldn't be buried underground. They would take the Geniza and just put it inside. Anything, any old objects, old tefillin, old mezuzahs, old writings, and they put it inside the Geniza. In the early 1900s, many people went and started digging through the Geniza, and they found many old treasures in the Geniza. There's one of the most, you could say, famous scrolls in Eretz Yisrael or Jewish history. It's called the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls, they were found in caves, which were in the Qumran caves in the Dead Sea area, and because of the temperature over there so low, below sea level, they didn't decompose, and they stayed around for thousands of years, and they could read it. And where were they found? They were found in caves. Caves meaning that it was put away there for Geniza. So either people who were refugees there in those caves, or the Chacham, the sages, who found what the 70 scrolls, and they put it into Geniza, into hiding places where you don't want to throw it out, but you want to make sure that it's put away respectfully. And therefore, many of the things written in those scrolls are not according to the Torah, do not fit with the Torah at all. As a matter of fact, it's the arguments of the certain sect, it's a cult, arguing with the Chachamim, with the sages about when you should start counting Sfiras HaOmer. It's sort of like Tzedukkim saying you should start it on Sunday. And so the fact that it was put away in caves shows that it was done for Geniza, to be hidden. And there's many Genizas. Another famous Geniza is in Prague. I hadn't closed the tab already. But in Prague, where the Golem is, on top of the Aron Kodesh, there was a place where they would put the old Sfarim. So it does not have to be buried. There's many halachas of Shaimos. We'll get to some of them today. Coming from Borough Park, you see just like this, Shaimos trucks all over, on many corners. Shaimos, picking up Shaimos to be buried. Here's a famous Shaimos took place last year in Pittsburgh. Right, and you see over here they're taking all the boxes of old Svarim and putting it away.
Stop up. Cemetery here.
Right, so this is
Pittsburgh.
Shaimos
Right here.
in Pittsburgh. These are all old Svarim and old writings and printings. You know, everyone comes and you pay your fee, and this is where you put the Shaimos. The Sefer Torah are put away respectfully in Shaimos. So most nowadays people put Shaimos and it has to be taken to a certain place. It's always important to give Shaimos to a place which has a proper hashgacha, proper supervision. There were some unscrupulous people in New York which would fill up a Shaimos truck, bring it to a landfill near Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. So you have to make sure that when you're giving Shaimos, you're doing it to a place with a proper halachic supervision. So these are called Tashmishe Kedusha, articles used for holiness, not Tashmishe Mitzvah. Now, although Tashmishe Mitzvah may be thrown out, there is certain levels of sanctity and Kedusha of respect you're supposed to have. For example, a talus bag, which was used to hold a talus and a tefillin, although it's not considered to be tashmish kedusha, holiness, because it's not the actual tefillin, but it was used to serve a tefillin. It should also preferably put in Shaimos, or not thrown out directly. If it is thrown out, put into double wrapped in a bag, and it can be done like that. Halachas of Shaimos are unique, complex, and when in doubt, just ask. So tashmish kedusha, articles of holiness, nignazin, have to be hidden. Mitzvah. These are articles which were used for a mitzvah, but not for Hashem's name. Sukkah, the sukkah, which is a schach, the walls of the sukkah, although, I mean, according to the Zohar, has kedusha, but they don't have the kedusha of the schach. Lulav esrei gadasim and aravas, shofar, and tzitzis. In Australia, they're very strict about bringing in any insects or pesticides of any sort, and they would import a sorghum from outside of Australia every single year. And I think till today, maybe today is different. They have more locally grown sorghum there, and due to a religious, for the Jewish community, the customs allowed that the sorghum to be brought in, and then afterwards, after Sukkot, to be returned, and they would be destroyed after they'd be returned. And the customs would dispose of them, destroy them, like they do to every other thing they don't allow in the country. And they asked poskim, they asked the Rebbe too. This is used for a mitzvah. Can we do it? And the Rebbe said, and other poskim said that you're allowed to do it. Give it back to them. It's not a kedusha. It's not a tashmish, a object of a kedusha, it's object of a mitzvah. And if the only way to fulfill the mitzvah will be to give in the object afterwards to be destroyed, you're allowed to do it like that. And they would do it. Shofar and tzitzis. All these things do not have to be going to Geniza, according to the baseline halacha. And all of these things would be allowed to be disposed of afterwards. Because these are not objects that became objects of Kedusha, it's objects which are non-holy objects, were used for a mitzvah. After the mitzvah is done, the Kedusha is finished. And the Kedusha leaves from the object afterwards. Beis Yosef passes like this as well. If it's still part of the mitzvah, meaning during Sukkot, then you cannot throw it out. You cannot throw out a lulav and esrog during Sukkot. A shofar during Rosh Hashanah, that cannot be done. Because all these objects are in the middle of being used as a mitzvah, but after the time is up, or if the talis is no longer valid, so then you're allowed, it no longer has the kedusha, the holiness of the mitzvah. There's a lot to discuss in this, but we'll just continue for the sake of brevity. These are objects of kedusha, of holiness, which have Hashem's name on it. Gluskami are the cases of the Sefer Torah. Svarim are Sefer Torah. Svarim are a Sefer of Nevi'im and Ksuvim. Svarim includes a Megillah, anything written on parchment. Tefillin and mezuzos. Stam, right? Stam, samach taf mem. Sefer Torah, tefillin and mezuzos. Tikshel Sefer Torah, the cloth going around the Sefer Torah. Benartik shel tefillin. The cover of tefillin, does that mean the tefillin boxes? Does that mean the tefillin bags? Or does that mean the actual leather of a tefillin? The nartik shel tefillin, so nartik is the tefillin box. The tzuas are the tefillin straps. All these things have kedusha, have holiness, and you're not allowed to throw them away. They have to be put into Shaimos, into a proper geniza. Whether it's the hand tefillin straps, whether it's the head tefillin straps, both of them have this level of kedusha, of holiness. When you're saying it could be thrown away, what does it mean thrown away? The Rama, the base Shulchan Aruch writes that it could be literally thrown in the trash. The Rama writes that you have to put it away, but you don't have to put it sort of geniza, but you don't have to put it into protected space, into a covered area. Nizrakin means that you sort of throw it away in a place where it will be kept. Sort of like the during the year of Shemitah, says you take all the pits, you can't throw it in the garbage, but you throw it away in a place where it could decompose by itself.
What's the difference between a nartik and a tick?
A nartik and a tick is a nartik is much longer than a they're the same thing. Tick is big and nartik is small. So Rashi over here on the side says.
Okay.
We're going to the Rashi on the page, but that's what Rashi says. They're the same thing. One is bigger, one is smaller.
Okay.
The Rama writes, he does add on that there are some people which are still makbid to put things into Shaimos, and therefore you should, if you're makbid, if you're being more stringent, you should have extra blessing. The Maril, he would take any pieces of tzitzis, let's say a piece of tzitzis that fell off from a tzitzis, he would put it into a sefer, into a book, or into another object where you do a mitzvah with it. The Chaim, he would take, let's say, a piece of tzitzis and reuse it as a bookmark for another mitzvah. Something that's done for one mitzvah, you should do it, you want to use it for another mitzvah. Now, the scraps of tefillin, they have Hashem's name in it. They have the Dalid, they have the Yud on the Shoresh, and they have a Shin. They have a Dalid and the Yud, and you wrap it as a Shin as well. And since they have they're used to make Hashem's name, it has a tremendous amount of kedusha in it, of holiness. The tefillin itself has a Shin, has Hashem's name, the Shin of Hashem's name. And therefore, they have a tremendous amount of kedusha, of holiness, also in the straps, and therefore the straps also have to go into geniza. The Rajba writes that's halacha l'Moshe Sinai, going back to Moshe Rabbeinu to make the straps in such a way. The Ritva writes that although it's possible to untie the strap and make it no longer have Hashem's name in the strap, still you have to have a certain level of kedusha, of holiness. The Pri Megadim goes through 6 levels of holiness, from more strict to less strict, and based on that is what we have to do, what we know to put into Shaimos or not. You have the highest level of kedusha, of holiness, which is whatever has Hashem's name on it. A Sefer Torah, Tefillin, Mezuzas, a Gemara, a printed Sefer which has Hashem's name, that has a level of kedusha. Then second is anything which is used for kedusha. For example, an Aron Kodesh, a mezuzah case, a mantle for a Sefer Torah, and that's a level less. And these only have kedusha once they were actually used. Before they were used, they don't have kedusha, they don't have holiness before they were used. Third thing is a tashmish of a tashmish, something which is assisting something. For example, the bima, which you put on it a talis, you put on it a cloth, which on that you put a Sefer Torah. So it's a use for use. Or, for example, the pareches, the curtain in front of the Aron Kodesh, and that's a lower level. Then you have level number 4, things which are used for a mitzvah, like a talis, a shofar. During the time using the mitzvah, it's holy. The 5th level is things which are no longer in use for a mitzvah. And the 6th level is things which are used for something else which is used for a mitzvah. For example, you have a esrog case. So these things don't have kedusha. There's an additional leniency, things which were never used at all. For example, if you have, let's say, a pamphlet that was printed on Shabbos with Dvar Torah, so it's important to try not putting any pictures, let's say, of tzaddikim or any words of Torah, Hashem's name on there, so it shouldn't need definite Shaimos. If they were used and read and people learned from it, it should go into Shaimos. If it's not, then it was never used, many poskim, they say that you could put it into a bag and then put that into the garbage. So you're disposing of it respectfully. You cannot burn Shaimos, So you cannot burn a cover of a Sefer Torah, a bima. That's not a proper way to dispose of it. You're allowed to bury it, or you're allowed to put it away into a place where it was just sort of by itself decomposed, but you're not allowed to burn it. You're not allowed to demote from kedusha from holiness. For example, if you got a new Aron Kodesh, can't take your old Aron Kodesh and dispose of it and say, I'm transferring the holiness of the new Aron Kodesh. A bima is the same thing. So you have to find another proper way in order to dispose of it. Things which are used for kedusha, many people have different customs of what they do with it. For example, they take the old Sefer Torah and they use it, the old covers of Sefer Torah, and they'll use it to make a decoration for a show. They would take the old garments of the Kohanim and they would make wicks for the Beis HaMikdash, for all the different candles and the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash. In order to get around many of these problems and issues, the best thing to do is when you are buying it, to make a condition that we're only making it holy on condition that if it ever, for every reason, we decide to not use it anymore, it goes back to its original state. And such a condition could help for tashmishay mitzvah, in order to remove it from its holiness and in order not to use it anymore. It's very important to be careful with the holiness of the scraps of the tefillin. Many people, especially bar mitzvah boys, have very long straps. You have to be careful that shouldn't go onto the floor, because as we see from here, they have kedusha, they have holiness. And old straps should be put into Shaimos. Another rule is that scraps of a tefillin shliach, the hand tefillin, could be elevated, could go to the tefillin shorosh, but the scraps of tefillin shorosh cannot go down to the tefillin shliach. The certain Hasidic Rebbes, the Minchas Elazar of Munkach, the Shinover Rebbe, Chaim of Tzanz, they had a whole minhag what they did with their tefillin straps after they removed it. But certain tefillin straps are still around. The tefillin strap from the Baal Shem Tov, it's still Rabbi Greenglass from Montreal had it. And all these things have tremendous amounts of kedusha. That's 11:44. We will continue with, I'll conclude with a story. We'll continue with a few halachas of Pesach. Where's the Kisah Shulchan Aruch? Where was it? Here it is. We're middle of the Seder. Just bring it up. There was a husband who told his wife, after they finished cleaning and working and cleaning the house for Pesach, and he says, listen, we cleaned everything in the house. We did everything that we had to do. However, we got rid of all the chametz. There's only one more piece of chametz left in this house, so we still have to get rid of. We still have to clean. He pointed to his wife, trying to throw a little bit of a jibe at his wife. He pointed, this piece of chametz. So his wife tells him, that piece of chametz my father sold to a goy a very long time ago. It's very important for those who have not sold yet sell their chametz to make sure to sell their chametz, even if you're going to buy more during Pesach, but at least they're not over, they're not transgressed. You could do it all online at Chabad.org. There was a famous line, if the men would have to clean for Pesach and the woman would have to build a sukkah, both of them would start the same day on Erev Pesach. So we're holding later on in this simon different minhagim, customs of people that we do during the Seder. It's a mitzvah to this when you do the Seder to make sure to have to do it with, they say, tremendous simcha, tremendous joy. We say hey lachma anya. We open up the matzah, we reveal the matzah which is hidden. Some people say kol lachma anya, but the Rebbe says according to Kabbalah, which say hey lachma anya. This is a poor man's bread. So we're holding here Sif Dalit, number 4. Right in the beginning of Magid, you pour a second cup of wine, and you don't drink it right away. And the child asks, and the child asks, Manishtana. And Chabad, we have our own additional text, the introduction to Manishtana that we say. If there's no child, someone else asks, or him, or his son, his daughter, or his wife, and even if there's no one else at the Seder but him, he says, Shoyel Atzmoi, he asks himself. The idea of asking Manishtana is, the Rebbe explained how it's also talking to Hashem. And we're asking, Manishtana Laila Zeh, why is this galus? Why is this exile different than all other exiles? And he goes through every single one by one, of the 4 questions. So even if there's no one else there, we ask the 4 questions. And not just that, even if, even after all children ask the 4 questions, afterwards, there is, whoever is there at the Seder says the Manishtana to themselves. And then we say, Avadim Bayinu. We were slaves in Parar to Mitzrayim. Hey lachma anya, we say in Aramaic. First of all, that was a spoken language then. But first of all, it's also like Kaddish. Kaddish is so holy, we say it in Aramaic, so the angels should not be jealous. Angels should not want this. They want to say Kaddish and they can't, so that's one of the reasons we say it in Aramaic. Same thing, we say Hey lachma anya also in Aramaic. We say this is a poor man's bread. And the angels want to understand what we're saying. But if they would understand it, it would be possible to say, hey, the Jewish people, they're not deserving of being redeemed. Look at them. But they don't understand Aramaic. They only understand Hebrew. And therefore, we say Helachma Anya in Aramaic. Arami, which is a language Aramaic, says that Ramak, Moshe Cordovero, he was a Mekubal, lived at the time of the Rizal, in Tzvas, he says it comes from the word Ramai, the same letters. Ramai, which means a scammer, a trickster, and Arami is Aramaic. He said the fact that we're saying in Aramaic is because we're trying to trick the Malachim, the angels. They should not understand what we're saying in Helach Ma'anya. And that's the reason why we say it in Aramaic. Then we say the next part of Haggadah, which is Avadim Yinu were slaves to Parar and Mitzrayim, and it's important to explain Haggadah in a way that everyone understands, including children. So not necessarily means deep Tiferes as much as it means to give the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim with the details. If he doesn't understand in Hebrew, you should say it in whatever language he understands. So Lashon Ashkenaz means Yiddish. Ulachar kol piska, Yomer Lashon Ashkenaz. So say it in Hebrew and then translate it into English. Especially when it comes to the end, I say Pesach Matzah Umar. Now, if you do not explain everything, you still fulfilled your obligation. But it's best to explain the Haggadah and the Seder for everyone that could to understand it. We don't make a bracha for reading the Haggadah, similar to we don't make a bracha to build a sukkah, because building a sukkah is not the mitzvah. It's eating the sukkah that's a mitzvah. So too, the reading the Haggadah is not necessarily the mitzvah. The mitzvah is to explain to your children the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. That you already made a bracha during Kiddush. During Kiddush, you said Zecher Yetzias Mitzrayim. When you come to V'hisha Amda, you're picking up a cup of wine, and you cover the matzah. And the reason why we cover the matzah is in order to remove the embarrassment of the wine, that you're taking away the you're covering that you're picking up the cup of wine while the matzah is there. And matzah is a motzi, and wine is a gafen, a bracha down. And we say V'hisha Amda, and miyadam chayzer megalas matzahs. Another reason given is why do we pick up the becher by V'hisha Amda? Because V'hisha Amda, we say, and this is what has stood us by throughout our entire exile, that although we have been in exile for so long, how did we survive? V'hisha Amda, you pick up the wine with the saying Chaim, that's how we managed to survive all of our exiles. And we'll pause over here, and we'll conclude with a beautiful Pesach story of the Rebbe. There's so many of them, but this is almost a Baal Shem Tov type of story. If you ever heard of this town, it's called Tyler, Texas. Don't know how big the Tyler is, but it's almost a little dot on the map. Here's a picture of downtown Tyler, Texas today. And this story took place in the 70s. So I can imagine it wasn't too much larger than it is now. This is downtown Tyler the way it looks like today. Now, with our times, we said the Rebbe will give out matzahs certain times to shliachim, to certain elder chassidim, to certain good people, the Rebbe will give out matzah. In Jersey, so different people will receive, the Rebbe will give out matzah on Erev Pesach. Here is the airport in Tyler, and this is going to be the place where we're going to be discussing today. When the Rebbe turned 70, in the year 1972, on the 11th of Nisan, which is the Rebbe's birthday coming up, in Mirza Hashem this Friday, and there was a very large Farbrengen of the Rebbe. And the Rebbe is famously said of the Farbrengen that that people are telling me I'm turning 70, it's time to take it easy, to relax a little bit. However, the Rebbe says, Hashem gave you a year, it's because there's what to do with it, and therefore going to make 71 new institutions in this year. Now, this is a story which is, you could say, a sort of Baal Shem Tov type of story from the Rebbe, which took place during that year. There's, in Odessa in Ukraine, which now it's unfortunately many people, all the Jewish institutions in Odessa had to move. But there's several Jewish orphanages in the city, and the Joint Distribution Committee, a very Jewish organization, they supported a lot of the institutions in Odessa, Ukraine. And there became a delegation to see what, to see exactly all the institutions that they're supporting. And the shliach in the city is named Rabbi Binyamin Wolf, very dynamic shliach. And this large group from the Joint Distribution Community of the U.S. came, and they were there the Shabbos before Yud Alef Nisan, the Shabbos of the Rebbe's birthday. And there was a large Shabbos meal with many dozens of young people and for college students and other people from the orphanages. And so he explained what is Yud Alef Nisan, the Rebbe's birthday. He mentioned the Rebbe's birthday when the Rebbe turned 70, how the Rebbe revolutionized the Rebbe to make more new institutions and more Chabad houses everywhere you go. Instead of, the people were telling the Rebbe, it's turning 70, it's time to sort of take it easy, relax. And the Rebbe is saying, now we have to do much more than before. And he explains that in Jewish institutions over here in Odessa, we have many of them, and the Jewish age doesn't go according to your passport. So there was somebody who was part of his delegation. His name is Mr. Binyamin Sadeh. He is the principal of one of the big Jewish yeshivas, Jewish school in Baltimore, Maryland. And he said a Chaim at the Friday night meal, and he says, "You're mentioning when the Rebbe turned 70 that in 1972 Yidolf Nissen Farbrengen. I was there, and I have an amazing story to say." And he shared his story with everyone there. And he was later interviewed by Kfar Chabad magazine, say it firsthand. And Rabbi Shmuel Kaplan was a shliach in Baltimore, knows Mr. Sadeh very well. And so he said over the story with all the details. He didn't want to publicize it. He says, I don't want to, but later on, he was explained that nowadays, in today's days, everything that you say has to, encourage to somebody else. So this is how he explains. Mr. Binyamin Sadeh, he says, my first connection to Lubavitch was when he was very young, 1965-66. He was asked by a Jewish organization in New York to move to Phoenix, Arizona, in order to make a Jewish school in Phoenix, Arizona. Nowadays, Phoenix has a tremendous Yiddish Jewish community. Then it was much smaller than it was today. It's very hot. I was in Phoenix in the airport in the summer. I didn't get out of the airport, but as we're landing, we say the temperature outside is 101 with a real feel of 110. It gets very hot in Phoenix, Arizona. The Jewish community, the Frum community specifically, did not yet develop to what it is at all. The idea of bringing Jews who were far from Yiddishkeit, close to Yiddishkeit, did not catch on yet at all. He was one of the only Shomer Shabbos Jews in the entire Phoenix. There were no shluchim yet in Phoenix. He had many questions that will come up. And he knows that the Lubavitcher Rebbe in New York, he's one of the people which is involved, only Jewish leaders involved in bringing Yidden closer to Yiddishkeit. It's 12 o'clock, if anybody wants to go. The story will probably take another 10 minutes. And
he sent 2 boxes with Rachel.
Any questions that he had, he would ask the Rebbe. He would write to the Rebbe, and he wasn't a chassid, not connected to chassidim at all. But he knows that the Rebbe was one who would deal with non-religious Jews, which weren't too many Jewish leaders at that time doing it. He wrote a few letters to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe would give him answers. Later on, when he came time, he became engaged, he got married. And being as he was already writing letters to the Rebbe and receiving answers, he wrote to the Rebbe the fact that he's getting married, asking advice. Should I go back to Phoenix? There's nowhere to raise our children over here. Can't raise a family in Phoenix. And the Rebbe gave him certain advice, which he says, only looking back after many years could I see that as actually correct. He continued living in Phoenix. The Rebbe encouraged him to stay. And in the winter of 1972, him and his wife had their first child. They were married already. It was 3 years after they were married that they had their first child, and they were very happy. And when they're ready to go home from the hospital, so the hospital staff told them, this is before the days of being trained in sensitivity, we want you to stay a little bit longer. We're not ready yet to release you from the hospital. And they didn't tell them why. They started asking questions, what, where, and they just would brush them off. Goes by one day, another day, a third day, they're still in the hospital. They don't know what's happening. They're very nervous. They get called in by the head of the entire infant division, and with a very serious demeanor, he tells them, there's certain issues with your son. We don't know what the problem is. It looks like that he has certain problems, which he doesn't even want to mention. And it looks like you will have to stay over here in the NICU for the next foreseeable future. How long? He says, I don't know how long. We're a young, unexperienced couple. We didn't know what to do. And he doesn't know where. Suddenly he got an idea in his head. Let me write to the Rebbe. Seems like he was out of all hope. And he already wrote to the Rebbe before, and you've heard stories about the Rebbe. So let me write to the Rebbe. He sent an express letter to the Rebbe saying all the problems, saying how worried they are. 2 or 3 days later, he received a phone call from the maskiras, some secretaries of the Rebbe. And he says, take a pen and write down what the Rebbe answered. The Rebbe said, first of all, circled, when you wrote, we are very worried, the Rebbe circled it, and the Rebbe wrote on the side, there's no reason to worry at all. He asked the bracha to be released from the hospital, and the Rebbe circled that, and then the Rebbe wrote on the side, very soon, ask Alatzin, I will mention it by the ohel. Just this encouragement they got, a young couple being all the way in Phoenix, Arizona, it gave them so much encouragement. They became new people. They became suddenly energized once again. They went back into the hospital, started speaking with the staff. And 48 hours later, the child was released from the hospital. They all returned home. It was the same head of the division, of the infant division, with a big smile on his face, said that, thank God, your child is now healthy. There's no reason to worry whatsoever. Using the same words as a Rebbe. Now, this is the next part of the story. I mean, such a story, there's Baruch Hashem, thousands of them. This is the next part of the story, which comes when you realize someone has a not just to say, ask for a bracha, but also to say thank you. He felt a tremendous need to say thank you to the Rebbe. Now, although it was coming close to Pesach, he decided not to push it off. 3 weeks later, Shabbos before Pesach, he traveled to New York. That year, Shabbos Hagadol was on Yud Nisan, the 10th of Nisan. Pesach starts on Wednesday night, the 15th of Nisan. The Rebbe's birthday that year, Yud Aleph Nisan, was on Sunday. He was very unknowledgeable with how it works in Chabad, how it works in Lubavitch. And he didn't know that to get a Yechidus by the Rebbe, as long as Yechidus was around until the mid-70s, you had to go at least 6 months in advance to a year. He went to some relatives of his in Brighton Beach for Shabbos, and he said, on Sunday afternoon, I'll travel, I'll see the Rebbe, and I'll say thank you. I'll go to 770s, it's Sunday afternoon. When he comes to Brighton Beach, he meets his relatives, and his relatives tells him, in the Jewish newspapers here, it's saying that Sunday is the birthday of the Rebbe. There's going to be tremendous crowds, the Rebbe's 70th birthday. Starting at 9:30. Fabringen. So he decided, you know what? I'm going to come to the Fabringen at 9:30. I'll come Sunday afternoon to the oil, to 770. Say thank you to the Rebbe. I'll come to the Fabringen Sunday night. So he walks into the secretary of the Rebbe, and this is Rabbi Chadakov, right behind the Rebbe. Many pictures of Rabbi Chadakov here. Very special, unique chassid, perhaps the only chassid, only real chassid, or perhaps the greatest chassid of our generation, Rabbi Chadakov. And he was a very square, strict person. And he will give a look, and that would be scary. This Rabbi Chadakov, who was the Rebbe's, personal secretary, and he was the one he was someone who kept secrets to the T. Short anecdote: there was a shliach one time who, with tremendous difficulty and tremendous miracles, he built a building in the place where he's a shliach. Right afterwards, when he wrote to the Rebbe about it, the Rebbe said right away, build a second building. And he called up Rabbi Chadakov and he says, how is it possible? Even one building we couldn't have built. How can we do a second one? Rabbi Chadakov told him very, very strict. You think even the first one, you did it with your own koyach, your own power? It's a Rebbe who gave you the power. And if he told you could do one, you could do two as well. So he walked into Rabbi Chadakov, says, I would like to meet the Rebbe. I'm planning on leaving town tomorrow. And Rabbi Chadakov gave him a look. And he could say, it was something, such a strong look. And he says, almost like, are you crazy? And but he kept on he was very persistent. A special thing with the Rebbe, and in the end, Rebbe Chadakov agreed that he could walk into the Rebbe, say thank you, and walk out and not say anything else. And and he made him promise and promise and promise over and over. You're never going to take the Rebbe's time. Even if the Rebbe stops you, you'll walk out. You walk in, say thank you, and walk out. That evening, he was by the Rebbe's Fabringen, where the Rebbe turned 70 and the Rebbe said to make 72 new institutions within that year. And he was planning on going back earlier to his relatives in Brighton Beach by 10 o'clock, but he ended up staying till the end of the Fabringen. Such a magical experience. And so the next night, he didn't realize the clock going. The next night, which is Monday night, remember, Wednesday night is a Seder already. Tuesday night, you check for Chametz. So Monday night, he was in Yechidus by the Rebbe. And he went into Yechidus at 2 o'clock in the morning. He went into Yechidus by the Rebbe. He gave the Rebbe his note, saying thank you very much to the Rebbe. Thank you that his son was released from the hospital. Everything is very good. The Rebbe seemed very happy. Gave him a bracha. Everything should be good. And he started walking out, remembering his promise. But the Rebbe held him up. The Rebbe started asking him what's happening in Arizona. How is everything in the previous letters? The Rebbe wrote to him, how is that progressing? The Rebbe was unhappy with certain things which aren't progressing fast enough. And he's turning to leave. And there was a certain bell that was in the Rebbe's room, which the secretaries of the Rebbe would buzz to say it's time for the person to leave. And he was ready to leave. And then the Rebbe turns to him and the Rebbe says, when are you planning on going back to Arizona? So he says, Mir Hashem, tomorrow morning I have a flight. Which is Tuesday morning, he has a flight back to Arizona. Wednesday night's already the Seder. The Rebbe asked him, could you do me a favor, please, and do something for me on the way there? And he says, of course. He didn't even think what it would be. And the Rebbe smiled and says, if it's not too difficult, go to Rabbi Chadakov's office on the way. So then he left the Rebbe's room, and the Rebbe told him, Adain, thank you. He goes into Rabbi Chadakov's room. He heard a knock, and he says, come in. And we walked in. Rabbi Chadakov says, Rebbe Yamin. He doesn't know how the Rebbe managed to speak to him already, because already the next person went into Yechidus right after him, and it was less than a minute till he came to Rabbi Chadakov's office. Perhaps the Rebbe told him before, but that's a fact. When he walked in, Rabbi Chadakov tells him, Rebbe Yamin. He said, Rabbi Chadakov knew who he was, and that he's expecting to do a shlichus of the Rebbe. Rabbi Chadakov didn't waste any time with him. He took a package in his hand, and he says, here is a package of matzah. I want you to bring it to Tyler, Texas. This town over here, Tyler, Texas. Let's just see how far Tyler, Texas is from Arizona. Directions to Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix, Arizona. So the Rebbe says, I want you, it's about 1,162 miles to go from Tyler, Texas to Phoenix, Arizona. If you're driving it takes very long. He says, I want you to drop off this matzah in Tyler, Texas, in Tyler. So he asks him, what's Tyler? He says, Tyler is a city in Texas. Rabbi Chadakov answers him very impatiently. I told Rabbi Chadakov I have a flight straight to Phoenix, Arizona. I'm not planning on going to Texas. I never heard of a place called Tyler. I never went there. Rabbi Chadakov gave him a very stringent look. And he says, should I tell the Rebbe you don't want to do what he asked to do? I said, no, I'm going to do it. And Rabbi Chadakov says, okay, thank you. And he gave him the message. He was dismissed. He's walking out of the Rabbi Chadakov's office. Suddenly, he didn't remember, who am I supposed to give it to in Tyler, Texas? He turned to Rabbi Chadakov to ask him, and Rabbi Chadakov looked at him with such a look such a impatient, angry look. He says he didn't even imagine to speak to him for a moment. He didn't want to annoy him. What, he's going to ask me these questions. What's the difference who to give it to? Just give it. He gave me the feeling that I was just bothering him. I didn't wait for his answer, and I quickly left. I went back to the house where I'm staying in Brighton Beach. It's already 4 o'clock in the morning. I decided I'm not going to think about the strange mission of mine. I went to sleep. Woke up in the morning. I packed my things, and I was trying to figure out let me try finding a flight going to Tyler, Texas, and from there a flight to Phoenix, Arizona. It was already Yud Gimel Nisan. It's Tuesday. That night you check for chametz. Wednesday night's already Pesach. There's no way that he can land in Phoenix, rent a car, drive to Tyler, and make it back, and find out where Tyler is even. But he took upon himself this mission. He decided that my flight is coming up. Let me get to the airport and let me see what I can do in the airport. When he came to the airport, he found out there are no direct flights from New York to Tyler. Even the people working in the airport and the airline workers never heard of Tyler in their life. At least he wasn't alone. And although Texas is on the way, there's no flights from New York to Arizona with a stop in Texas. He tried finding a flight to Texas and then a new flight to Arizona, and it was very complicated. He decided, my flight is coming. I got to get home for Yom Tif. I'm going to go home. I'm going to land. Once I land in Phoenix, Arizona, I'm going to call back up Rabbi Chadakov and says, I'm sorry, I couldn't do my mission that you gave me to do. He still hopes something would happen, but he doesn't have any choice in the matter. Gets onto the plane feeling very not good. Here, the Rebbe gave me a bracha for my child who got better. And it's people who live their whole lives, and the Rebbe never personally asked them to do them a favor. Here, the Rebbe asked me to do something simple, and I'm not doing it. What do you already ask? He felt very not good. But what could he do? It's about a 3-hour flight from New York to Arizona. He was very tired from an entire night of being up by the Fabrengen the first night, second night being up for the Yichidus by the Rebbe until he got back to Brighton Beach at 4 o'clock in the morning. So he fell asleep as soon as he sat down on his place. And he slept so deeply that he was only woken up when the pilot started announcing, attention, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very sorry, but there is a problem with the plane, and we'll have to make an emergency landing. In another few minutes, we'll be landing in Tyler, Texas. He wasn't sure if he heard it or he was dreaming. And the pilot keeps on announcing it's not a serious problem. We hope that we won't be there very long. We'll continue to Arizona. He rubbed his eyes, and there was a stewardess going by, and he says to the stewardess, "What did the pilot announce?" He says, "We're making an emergency landing, but don't worry, we'll be safe." No, where are we going to? He says, "Tyler." What? Tyler? She's saying it again. So this stewardess tells him in a very impatient voice, Tyler, Tyler. He was shocked. He couldn't believe the way things are turning out. The plane landed in Tyler, Texas, and he says, it looks like they turned on, and I did a picture over here of the airport in Tyler, the way it is nowadays. This is the airport in Tyler. Here's the airport in Tyler, Texas. It says it was one room, and it seems like they turned on the lights in the airport just for us. And that's the entire airport in Tyler. And he comes into the one room of the airport. He finds out that most of the week the airport is closed. And he's looking for a local Tyler person to ask him if he knows any Jewish people here in Tyler. But we're talking about a sleepy city with a more sleepy airport, which just people came there to the airport. The only people there were technicians or mechanics in the airport, which nobody could really give him a clear answer to his questions. He's trying to figure out what to do. When a young couple comes over to him, he could tell they're Jewish. The man was not wearing a yarmulke. The woman was dressed sneas, and comes over to Mr. Binyamin Sadeh, and he asked him, "Tell me, do you have a package for us from the Lubavitcher Rebbe?" And he was shocked. Half an hour before, he hears an announcement from the pilot about this, but he says, now that things are happening, turning out the way, I'm becoming less shocked. He was the only one who had a yarmulke, a kippah on the entire flight, and he had a small beard, so people could tell that he was Jewish, but he couldn't tell about this people, his husband and wife, who came over to him that they were Jewish at all. Besides for her wearing modest, serious clothes, he couldn't tell that they're Jewish at all. He gave them the package of matzahs. They said, thank you very much. And he wanted to ask them, who are you? What's going on? How do you know the Rebbe? Why is the Rebbe sending you matzahs? But before he could even ask them any questions, they turned around, said shalom, and they walked off into the Tyler dusk. The $1 million questions are, who are these people? Where do they come from? How do they know there's going to be a plane landing at this time? He doesn't know the answer to any of these questions, probably never will know, but he does know that the Rebbe's children are royalty, and the Rebbe makes sure to take care of every single one. And if somebody needs a package, the Rebbe will make sure that the plane will land there in order to receive it. So everyone should have a kosher freilich Pesach. If you need shmura matzah, or if you know any other people who could use shmura matzah, which wouldn't have otherwise, please let me know. Make sure to sell the chametz. Today is the 9th of Nisan, so it's make sure to remember to say the Nasi. And with that, I want to wish everybody a freilich kosher and a freilich Pesach. And you should only have the Suras Tovas and good news. And Mr. Shem, even before Pesach, Mashiach Shakam will bring the carbon.